left, right.
Yo, what is up, guys? This is episode 107 of SipTalk. I think we got some interesting topics, and what I am curious for is I'm curious to know what you think of the episode. So let me know in the comments. Shoot me a DM. Shoot me a text. Let me know what you think of the episode. Let me know what you guys want to hear about. Trying to cover some current events today. We're covering meat. The meat shortage, impending meat shortage. It looks like a vegetarian summer. Listen on, you'll find out exactly what I mean. But thank you guys for coming, and I'll see you on the other end. See you. This is Sip Talk. Grab a drink and enjoy.
Of course, let's go.
Cheers.
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 Welcome, James. Welcome, everyone. This is episode 107 of Sip Talk. My name is Justin DiGiulio, and I, as always, am joined by James, the Bosnator Boswell, out of Charleston, South Carolina, accountant extraordinaire, philosopher, referee, and bartender, all at the professional level. Very skilled. Glad to have you here today, James. How's it going down there in South Carolina?
Pretty relaxed. Nothing like starting off a week knowing that it's only a 4-day week.
Dude, I thought it was Monday all day long.
Oh, I totally did too.
I'll be glad when it's Friday and I feel like, I still got more to go and I realize the week is pretty much over. I mean, not that I'm not always working, but I still like to embrace those, the weekend coming feeling. And then the weekend going feeling is always not a great one, but
Sunday nights kind of suck.
But since I'm always working, it's all really the same. I planted some grass yesterday. Well, I told you I had the dirt. No, we talked about the dirt. I had the dirt delivered.
Yeah, this is a real cloud freezer.
Well, yeah, I'm sure it was. I had the dirt delivered. It was bad dirt. Came with a lot of rocks in it, a lot of debris in it, and it was an insane amount of dirt. So I got the machine. I spread it across the yard, but it needed a little more fine tuning than I could do with the giant machine. So what I had to do was shovel it out a little bit more, and then I had to get the metal rake and then grade it out, which I managed to do over the course of most of yesterday. And then I planted the grass seed, and now in the grass seed package it says you got to water it every single day. So
hope for rain.
After this, I'll be going out and watering it again. Yeah, I'm really hoping for rain. So fingers.
Here, you'll like this one.
What's that?
So I matched with a girl on Bumble. She lives in New York City, and she's going to be coming to Charleston at the end of the month. And so we're trying to set up a time to do like a video chat or something to see if we get along. And I think this is a great opportunity to test the long-standing hypothesis that women can find me unattractive from 1,000 miles away.
Yeah, well, fair enough. I'm not going to argue with you on that one. I think it's a solid hypothesis. Yeah, but good for you.
It's one of those. It's like gravity, where like intuitively you know it to be true, but there's always still experiments that you can do to refine it.
But good for her to have the. You see, I've never really embraced the online dating thing. But to her to have the forethought to like change her destination zip code to be to be setting up dates in a different state like that.
The apps have a travel mode where you can basically say like, yeah, I'm going to be in such and such a city, so you can kind of front run your swipes.
Interesting. I would never have. I never would have thought about that. Just wouldn't have been on my radar. So you haven't had the date yet?
No.
Now, from someone who's not really familiar with the online dating thing, not that I haven't done it in the distant past, but I've never been any good at it, and it's not really my thing, probably because I'm not good at it. But now you're introducing the element of doing a video call first.
Mm-hmm.
Or you're completely circumventing that awkward, like you meet the person the first time and you in a public place. Like that's awkward because
Yeah, but it's still awkward
awkward.
because it's a video chat. And
But that's there's a new element to it. What I'm saying is you're circumventing the second, the original first part where you meet this person in a public place. It's awkward, and it's awkward in a public place, and then you got to kind of make it. You ease into the decreasing of the awkwardness. So, how does that work? You're gonna do? You have to do Zoom. You don't have an Apple phone, so there's no FaceTime.
there's a couple other options. I think Bumble actually has a video chat integrated into the application. So
Oh,
think
that
we're
would
gonna
be
try that.
that would be brilliant because it would be like trying to match somebody up who's got a FaceTime phone, somebody else that wants to do a Skype, somebody does a Google Hangout or a Net meeting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of software involved. So
No, I'm sure it's going to be plenty awkward, but I think this is a great idea because it'll allow us to figure out whether or not it's a waste of time immediately.
are you going to be entertaining her from your bedroom?
Well, since it's with my phone, I can do it from wherever, but more likely than not, it'll be here. I'd prefer to do it on Zoom so I can use my webcam and have a 32-inch screen instead of like a 3-inch screen.
Oh yes, but so that would make sense. Now that would completely make sense to me. However, if she's hunched over having this conversation on her phone, right, and you're kicked back like in this relaxed, almost like you're at work situation, you guys are effectively in different settings on the same date.
Yeah, I'd
So-
rather start with the advantage.
But that may not give you, that may give you a disadvantage. It could be awkward for her. And and the thing about dating is that you may have an advantage or disadvantage, but at the end of the day, it needs to work
You know
out
what?
between the two of you.
It's probably a good thing that it starts off awkward for her because it's not going to improve.
you, you make a really good point. I'm sorry to laugh so hard, but it's true.
That's why I said it.
Oh man. Whoops. I want to do a quick shout out to those of you who are watching on TikTok. I see you TikTok guys there. I can see this is the camera. This is a TikTok screen. Want to say hi to you guys.
Say hi to Audrey.
On the Instagram feed. My Instagram feed is the same feed we have here, and the Instagram comments and the Facebook comments are being monitored. So if you guys want to comment that way, let me know. Rosh will let me know what you guys are saying. He'll let James know what you're saying in our chat here.
Say hi to Audrey and pump the call-in feature.
Pump the call-in feature. So I'll have Rosh put the number. I noticed last time I didn't give enough shout out to Rosh at the end as a big thanks. We didn't get a call in, but he was there pumping the call in the whole time. The call in number is, you have to text 212-239-1839, and you'll get a message back with how to access the call in feature. So if you want to ask live questions, you want to ask James about his dating life, he's an open book. I'm sure he'd be glad to be an open book. He can tell you about some internet dating, which I feel like this last year either worked out really, really well for some people who just didn't give a fuck, and they're like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep dating like normal, and then it didn't work out for the people that were like very scared, very pro-mask. I wasn't anti-mask, but I wasn't afraid to just go out and do the normal thing.
You still wearing your mask out in public?
Yes, I was in a store the other day. And I was in Wegmans. You know what Wegmans is?
Heard of it.
It's a really nice just grocery store. It's like a Whole Foods, but less pretentious. But then everybody else who tells me about Wegmans tells me how pretentious it is. So either I'm being pretentious or I'm just unaware and unassuming when I'm there. So I'll have to pay more attention next time I go by. But I was at a Wegmans, and that it being a pretentious store, and there's a guy walking around with no mask on. So, and nobody was giving him a hard time. So I don't know what this.
There's been a lot less people wearing masks down here. I still wear it, mostly just because I've come to like it.
Oh, I hate it.
I don't like the feeling of it. I just like the increased anonymity.
I mean, I see that. I don't like that. And also I have probably a little more facial hair than you do. So that's another thing that a lot of people may not understand is the having of the facial hair and how fast your hair grows. My hair grows really fast. I shave my head every single day, and by the end of the day, it's got like this kind of velcroness to it. Same thing with my face. That's not. I would rather have 2, 3, 4 days of growth on my face than a fresh shave every day, because by the end of the day, it's catching in the mask, and I couldn't wear the blue and white ones because by the end of the day, all the fabric would come out of the mask. So
your stubble would rip it up.
yeah, and it would, but it would like tingle on my face because the little pieces of cotton or whatever, the fibers in there would tickle my freaking face. It made me so mad.
To get to your level of stubble in one day usually takes me like 5 or 6 days.
Well, maybe it's a protein intake. I don't know. I've been trying to.
Lisa, I see you like my optimism. I look at it more as realism. Like,
self-awareness.
yeah, we were talking. I was playing golf yesterday and with 2 of my friends, and they were both talking about how like ghosting is this relatively recent thing, and I was trying to convince them that it's not a bad thing if you get ghosted because the alternatives are worse.
Well, there's a comment, Echo's comment. How fast does your hair grow? Where my head hair grows, it grows fast. Where it doesn't grow fast, it doesn't grow fast at all. But the thing about ghosting is I think it's an empathy thing. I think if you lack empathy, it's easier to do. And I think they're saying that the increased consumption of plastics and microplastics is making people's penises smaller.
No, sperm count lower.
And lowering,
maybe also smaller. I don't know.
No.
Definitely sperm count lower, but
sperm count, testosterone, and penis size. They all kind of group together. But again,
that's a way to get politicians to care about the planet.
I don't think a lot of politicians have big dicks.
Oh yeah, never mind. Doesn't affect us.
But I think another correlation with the plastic consumption could be decreased empathy. And that might be, there's a certain level of just not giving a fuck that people, and they think it's a good thing.
No, there's another factor here that so I agree with you on the empathy point, but I also think that especially the younger generation, I don't think I'm going out on a limb here and saying that they're a more anxious bunch.
Oh yeah, I would say so.
And having to break up with somebody and can be anxiety producing because that you're going to be hurting someone's feelings because they obviously care more about the relationship than you do. That's why you're ending it, not them. And so the anxiety of having to hurt somebody, it's easier to ghost and never have to have that conversation and confront somebody about it.
I see where you're going with that, but I think
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'd like to,
but the comments are saying ghosting is bad. Be an adult, communicate. Hey, this isn't working out for me.
That's the ideal. If you can,
but then there's another one that says, sure, I should be a guest and talk about ghost. I'd like to invite somebody on who's a chronic ghoster, and I'd like to know what your mentality is when you decide that it's okay because I think people are crushed when they get ghosted, and what you said was it's probably a good thing that it happened because it wasn't that person could be a piece of shit. But that's why I want to interview somebody who is a chronic ghoster. That person could be a piece of shit, but more likely than not, it probably wasn't going to work out.
Right. That's what I'm saying is obviously the best way to do it is to be mature about it and say, hey, I appreciate spending time with you. I'm glad that we met, but I'm not seeing this go the same direction you are. So I don't think it's going to work out. If you can deliver a line, something like that, that's perfect. But if you don't have, the alternative is either that ghosting or doing something worse, either cheating on somebody or telling them all the ways in which they suck or whatever. You know what? That doesn't help. So I'm not one who ghosts.
Breaking up with people is a very, very difficult endeavor. And I especially mean that when the relationship's not one side, or when the other person doesn't realize a relationship sucks, when it's a one-sided relationship per se, as in that person's fully into it and you have to break their heart. And prolonging that is also just as shitty as not being able to, or cutting them off immediately. But breaking up with people is definitely something that's hard to do. But I think ghosting must be an easier thing early into a relationship. I think it's very unheard.
Behavior, but
I think it's almost unheard of at the what do you say, 6-month mark, depending how often if you're seeing that person at least once a week or more often for 6 months. I can't imagine it would be very easy to ghost somebody at that point, at that 6-month mark.
Yeah, I think the longer it goes on, the harder it's going to be to pull off. But like, I was kind of ghosted about 2 or 3 weeks ago, and like, I'm not upset about it at all. Like that, I think that if you're being ghosted, you need to look at it in a positive way, which is, look, clearly this wasn't going anywhere, and so the other person is doing me a favor by doing this in the least confrontational, least hurtful way. I might not get an explanation, but the point is, I don't need an explanation. I've got my answer, and now it's time for me to move on. But it could have been worse. And at the same time, now that I've been ghosted, I'm free to explore different and, by definition, better opportunities.
That's a question. So if you guys are watching in the live, and I see you guys on Instagram, and I see you guys over here in TikTok, what's the longest you've been in a relationship and been ghosted? Because my thinking is that over the 6-month mark is so. How can I ask how long your situation was before the ghosting happened?
Somewhere between 6 and 8 weeks.
Okay, so that's wow. Okay, 6. That's a kind of a big gap, though.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Well, yeah.
Let's call it 2 months.
Okay, yeah.
Let's just call it 2 months. I don't know if
2 months still seems a bit on the. It depends on how often you're hanging out with that person and how intertwined.
2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah, 2 or 3 times a week is a lot to just stop talking to somebody. I don't know, you knew my story about how that, I once did that before.
Yeah, but you had good reason.
But that was from my perspective, not from the other person's. And then I sent them a LinkedIn invite email once every 3 or 4 months.
Yeah,
completely by accident, but
yeah, not a good move.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, I'd love to have someone call in and get their thoughts on this one, or just see what the chat has to say about this, because I found that now that I've changed my thinking about this, I feel happier.
Well, look, I knew a guy over a year and then dated for almost 6 months, and then you were ghosted. That's Samari on TikTok. But I didn't think we were going to be talking about ghosting. I thought we were going to be talking about beef today.
Oh, well, I mean, if you want to change topics, I saw a picture on Reddit of a worker at a Target store. And they're in the break room, and they're sitting at like one of the break tables, one of those like kind of just particle board picnic tables. And they're sitting at their chair, and they're like this.
Just forehead down on the table. Okay.
And in the caption was just like, I think we've all felt like this at one point. And it made me think about work and how, like, in one hand, I'm looking at it and saying any job that makes you feel like that during your 15-minute break, where you just put your forehead down on a desk and either stare at the floor or close your eyes, is a terrible job. But then I also thought, what was working conditions like 100, 200, 400 years ago? And how bad is it today, really?
Well, that's the perspective thing. And that's why you have people that are you're saying how people now are more anxious and have less empathy. But life is so easy now.
Hold on a sec. We got a comment that we got to address. I ghosted my first wife after 7 years of marriage.
I think what he means to say is he left his country and and came here. His English is not very good.
Oh, okay. All right. Back to what you were saying.
Thank you for that, Echo. I appreciate that. But I think life is so easy right now, so that if you have a job or you work look, if you work at Target, man, I'm sorry. Like, first off, nothing you can do at Target can qualify as intense physical labor. It may be light physical labor, but I will stress the light aspect of it. Now, if you're loading or you're working for the channel that brings things to the shipment channel that ships things to the store,
if you're cracking freight all day, that's tough.
Yeah, if you're working at the freight, that's a different side of it. I'm talking about the in-store. You got a name badge, got a red shirt, and you get to sit in the break room next to the microwave, and you have time to put your head down for a 15-minute break. My thinking is that if you're finding this strenuous, then you have a very loose definition of strenuous.
I don't think it's the physical aspect of the
that's
job.
my point, is what aspect of it is strenuous, and is it people asking you questions all day?
No, it's not that.
Well, enlighten me, because I can't think that can be that bad. And I think at a certain point you're going to get so pissed off that you need to find another job.
I think what people find frustrating about working big box retail jobs is the dehumanizing aspect of it, where
oh yeah, good one. All right
where first of all you're dealing with the general public, and we're going to take a selection here. This is the general public that shops at Target.
Was that better than the general public that shops at Walmart?
Most people would argue yes, but we're still not talking about like top slice.
What's wrong with people that shop at Target?
And you're shopping at a big box discount retailer,
but they have everything in one place.
Okay, moving on.
You can get frozen meatballs and wash.
You're dealing with a giant corporation that could give two shits about you as an employee. And you're dealing with a mix of people, but probably a good portion of the customers that you're dealing with aren't treating you like a person and looking down on you. And you're just kind of moving listlessly through the store, organizing racks and answering random questions. Nobody actually cares about how your day is going.
But I think it's
any thought that's
I think it's a certain
to it.
I think there's a certain mentality to it, though. You have to be in the right mentality. I think it's difficult if you make it difficult, but if you're in the right mentality, and yes, the shopper at Target probably is there out of convenience and because they're cheap as shit. So when they're there, they're not going to see you as a person. They're going to see you as a part of the store. And I get that dehumanizing aspect of it, but there's a certain mentality that you have to have. Otherwise, you're going to find it soul shattering because you're just dealing with this general public.
Right, but that's what you're seeing in this picture that I'm describing is the soul shattering aspect of it, where pretty much anyone that's worked retail has had a day where it's gotten to them like that person. And that's what the picture captures. And the reason why I'm talking about this is I'm saying, okay, on one hand, you're working a job where you get to wear comfortable clothes in an air-conditioned environment. You don't have to do heavy lifting. You're only there for 7 or 8 hours. You get 15-minute breaks every 2 hours or whatever. And 100 years ago, you might have been in a factory with no safety protocols whatsoever for 14 hours, and maybe you got a 15-minute break to have lunch, and you'd get yelled at if you had to step away from the line for 2 minutes to take a leak.
But I think the mentality was more so there. People understood that they were a cog in the wheel, and that wasn't them, right? That wasn't them. And I think there was probably a lot less of people flashing their brand new cars on Instagram, even though they work at Target back then.
It would have been really impressive if somebody was able to do that 100 years ago.
But that's my point, is now you have bullshit like that and you feel like you got to keep up with the Joneses. But I like your juxtaposition of somebody being stressed out and feeling soul shattered working at Target in 2000 and whenever that picture was taken, and then somebody working in a factory 100 years ago, or somebody working the fields 250 years ago,
Yeah.
or building whatever so many years ago.
I think here's another key point, and this is one where I'd have to do some research to compare, but I think that for the people that are working at Target that are making $8.50, $9 an hour or whatever, you can't live on that. Whereas the people that were working in factories, even though the working conditions might have been terrible, they were probably getting paid enough that they could support their family. So at least they felt like they were. But I'm not even talking about the cost of living. I'm talking about the real wages that they were earning were enough to support themselves and their family. So even though they're busting their butts every single day, they could come home and know that they earned their keep. Whereas if you work at Target for $8.50 an hour, you come home and you're like, I earned enough to have like a meal and a half tank of gas.
Well, yes, I completely agree. And Kalea's comment, the mentality doesn't last long. It doesn't last long day in and day out. And I get that. And then Conchin says, working with the public is not easy. And I also agree to that. I didn't have I ever had a retail job? I know you've had a
Yeah.
retail job. What was it? Would that count as the car rental? Is that effectively retail?
No.
I didn't think so. What retail job have I had?
Is your memory this poor?
Oh yeah, I don't remember anything.
It was in a mall.
Oh yeah, I didn't really take that job very seriously though.
No, you didn't.
No, I did not take that job very seriously, and my mentality when I went into that job was let me work on the weekend so I don't spend money at bars, which at the time really worked. So, but I
temporarily.
But when I worked at the car rental place and I lived in South Carolina, it wasn't so bad because people are much friendlier and you don't see people as often. When I worked at the same company, but in New York City, you're seeing person after person after person. People are much less friendly in New York City and they're much ruder. And there's just a lot more of them. So, for me, that really wore on me. And ultimately I decided to get out of it and I decided I didn't like it. But I think that's, if you have a job where you're that miserable at, that's you got to find something else. And if that means being miserable for a little while, I'd rather be miserable for a little while.
Not everyone has the opportunity to be able to just find something else.
I would strongly disagree. And if that means you got to take some classes or go to school or do some type of internship.
What if you can't afford school?
I'm sure.
What if right now your rent is such that you can't afford to quit your job because as soon as you do, you will immediately be behind on rent.
Then you need
let alone pay tuition somewhere.
And this is where I'm getting at, and I'll play a game with you in a minute, but this is where you have to figure out where you want to be miserable. Does that mean moving back into your parents' house?
Or does it mean you don't have your parents?
And we're going to play this game in a minute. But what if that means finding another apartment with a smaller bedroom with more roommates? Because you're gonna either it's either you're gonna do this for the next 60 years or you're gonna make a change. You got to figure out where you want to make that change. You can be miserable for 8 hours a day at work, and come home and watch Netflix most likely, or you could figure out where else you're able to take a little more misery, put in a little more work to change your situation. Like I said, if you're looking at certain things as constants, like having to stay in your apartment, then that's a constant. If you're looking at things like having to make your car payment, but you have a 2016 or newer car, that's your constant. But I think there's a lot of ways around that. But I also feel like you're playing, James, what would you do if I gave you a Lamborghini?
I'd drive it.
Well, yeah, but what if it was purple?
I'd still drive it.
Yeah, but what if it was automatic?
I'd still drive it because what?
But what if it got flat tires all the time?
I feel like we've played this game with a certain high school friend.
That's what the point is for those of you guys who are watching. I'm joking. It's an inside joke between James and I because we have a friend that always plays this what if game, and the scenario always gets a little more dire, and that's what James is. That's what James is playing.
What I'm trying to say is
situation.
that I don't feel like I'm playing that game because there are certain people out there where, like, if they have kids and they have there's a minimum amount that you need to make every single day to be able to just feed your kids and put a roof over them, even if you have roommates. And if quitting your job or taking less hours means that you're going to be below that threshold, then you're stuck. And it
I
doesn't
don't
matter
think
how miserable you're willing to make yourself, that there's a certain point at which you're not going to be able to get ahead because you're not going to be able to afford the costs that are required to make it to the next level. And everybody in the comments right now is agreeing with me, and you have to acknowledge the rare set of circumstances that portends.
and the other one from Clay is, what about people who are convicted felons? Now, a convicted felon who's working at Target is probably somebody who also could have taken up a trade, and rather than making $9.36 an hour, could be making $70 an hour doing plumbing, or working in a mechanic shop. And yeah, sure, it takes, it's you got to pick up this trade, but you also just spend a lot of time in jail. So, I think I would not be surprised if there were a lot of plumbers or mechanics who were previously convicted felons. I'm not shitting on those professions, but
I have a client that it's a small company. He owns it. It's a plumbing company, and he's got one employee, and the employee is a former felon. But
wait a second. So I just out of thin air pulled a exactly true scenario. Okay.
yeah,
All right.
but like the dude is out of prison and turned his life around, and like from my conversations with the client, dude's a great worker, and he pays him fairly, but not everybody has those opportunities. And so you have to look and say, what are we doing for the people that can't get there, that don't have those opportunities? How do we try and give them how do we give them the opportunities that they would not be able to achieve no matter how hard they try on their own?
Well, nobody's going to be able to become a mechanic without a lot of hard work and a lot of learning. You said, what are you talking about giving opportunity? The opportunity is there. It's
Right.
how
When
opportunistic or resourceful the person is. There are many, many resources outside of working at Target that someone can do if they want to better themselves. And I promise you, I could almost, I'd love to do a survey of people that work lousy jobs and feel trapped, and gauge that off the number of hours of TV that they watch every day. Because I'll bet you with the higher propensity of feeling trapped, there's a higher propensity to be watching TV.
there may be, but what I'm saying is that it's not as black and white as you're making it.
But it
which
depends.
is another odd thing for me to say, because I'm usually the black and white guy. But I don't know, like seeing that picture made me think back to my times working retail, and I've had two main retail jobs. One was when I was in college working at a small soccer shop in Albany, New York, where I was given a lot of freedom, and I loved that job. And
then a lot of freedom, yeah.
Like I had work to do, and I was held accountable for the work that I did, but I had a lot of freedom from my bosses, and it was a good job. And then I moved down to South Carolina, and I started working at Dick's Sporting Goods, which was in many ways the same job, but it was highly corporate, and I didn't get to make any of my own decisions. I didn't have much autonomy. I didn't have much freedom, and I lasted there for 3 months before I quit.
Those of you who'd like to, we've enabled a call-in feature, so I'll have Rosh in the Instagram send you guys the number. But if you text 212-239-1839, you'll get a message back with how to call in, and you can ask any questions that you guys may have, whether it's about ghosting or about working minimum wage at retail places.
Yeah, going back a little bit, Lisa was saying like having to wear a mask all day would get annoying. I can see that. Like,
well, that would be. I saw a guy at the garage today, and he was in a glass box taking payments electronically through the window, and he was wearing a mask. And I just thought, if I was in a glass box, like he had 4 glass walls around him.
I wonder what the ventilation is in those things.
But yeah, exactly. But
because like imagine being the guy who has to like when you switch shifts or whatever, and now you're stepping into a glass box that's been sealed for the last 8 hours. with nothing but the previous dude's BO.
Yeah, well, there's a comment on TikTok that says, like, I take advice from a bald head. Um, interesting comment. I just wanted to draw attention to that one. Needed to get heard. If you are balding, I could give you some advice whether you should shave your head or not.
I would say just stop balding.
Yeah, it's really easy. It's obviously just like working at Target. You're
It's worked
trapped.
for me.
All right. So what I want to touch on, and we've been around the block and back, but I want
actually, this is one of our more focused episodes, believe it or not.
I wanted to talk about the hacking because it's happened again. Yeah, I'll let you read the last comment there.
I kind of want a link.
James would like you to share your link if you want to send it. James will be a subscribing member. That way you don't have to worry about retail jobs. What are you drinking, by the way? I didn't ask you.
Cuddy Shark and some box wine.
They mix well, yeah.
I'm not mixing them together.
Try to wear it. Well, yeah. So a lot of people. So there's just a comment. Try to wear the N95 for 12 hours. But obviously, people in the nursing and doctor field, they're wearing masks nonstop.
They were doing that years ago.
They've been doing it for a very long time. So I mean, it's not terrible, but you're also signing up for that when you become a nurse or doctor or you work in the medical field. You're not signing up for it when you work at a parking garage.
It's like if I were at my job right now, I work in accounting for any of you who haven't been paying attention. If my bosses were to come in and take a toddler and put it on my desk and say, you're going to need to change this diaper, I'm going to say, I quit because that's not what I signed up for. But if I worked at a daycare, then yeah, I'm going to end up wrist deep in poop a couple times a day.
Oh God, I don't wrist deep or just having poop on your wrist.
I don't know. The point is that like every job comes with its own set of occupational hazards. Mine is mostly paper cuts.
Yeah. Do you get a lot of paper cuts?
No, maybe once or twice a year. I'll just file a workers' comp and take a week off.
That would be the soccer player reaction to the paper cut. All right. So I want to talk about being hacked because I think this is phenomenally an exciting time to just be in the world. That one of the large, I assume it's one of the, I think they do the majority of the meat in the U.S. JBS is a beef plant.
Okay.
And they've been, so we had the pipeline, the oil pipeline that was hacked by a hacker group that held them for ransom, basically telling them they were going to fuck with their system until they paid them a certain amount of money. And they did. They paid the money.
Like $5 million.
And now, which does not seem like enough money to me, but whatever. I guess, but I think they wanted it to be a low enough amount of money that they would just pay it. So now we have hackers that have seized control of the beef plants in the U.S. and I think also in Australia, but mainly in the U.S. And our meat is being held for ransom. What are your thoughts on that? Are you aware of this?
Tangentially.
Okay. What are your thoughts on our meat being held? I was thinking maybe PETA was connected to it, but
no,
obviously not.
No, they're not competent enough. The way I look at it is any company that has systems sufficiently vulnerable that a single hack can bring down their entire operation, I have very limited sympathy for.
But everything is run. Your entire company right now could be hacked because everything you do is digital. There's no what do you have for a paper trail that you can track back?
Well, we've got tons of paper in the office.
Okay. Would you happen to have any of your clients' last year tax returns in paper form?
Probably not.
Okay.
So I'll tell you the layers of security that our firm has.
You probably shouldn't tell us on air.
No, I can tell you exactly what it is because it's not jeopardizing anything. Is all of our all of our technology is hosted through Amazon Web Services. So it's held on Amazon servers through the
Mhm.
cloud.
Mhm.
And in order for us to access, like my work desktop, I can access from anywhere through a remote desktop connection. And so
Mhm.
in order for me to be able to log in, I need to know the server name, my username, and my password. When I try and log in, I'll get two-factored, where I'll get a text message that I have to enter within like 5 minutes.
Well, the two-factor authentication is definitely a good layer of protection.
But and so not only do you have to know three pieces of information and also have my phone to be able to log in through my connection, but we also have three separate servers running at any one point that are backed up every single night. So if anything were to ever happen, whether it's by accident where somebody deletes something that they shouldn't have, or we were to actually get hacked, first of all, the hack gets detected pretty quickly. So like as soon as a hack's detected, like basically the server kind of locks everything out so you can't change anything else. But let's just imagine that they were to hack everything and they just wanted to either steal stuff or delete stuff. um, they'd already have to pass those three things, but we would be able to recover our servers to whatever like the 1 a.m instance was the night
Mhm.
before, or whatever time they do the backups. So our firm, we might be set back a day when we have to call up our technology consulting company and say, hey, we need you to restore our servers to their backup from last night.
Sure, but
So
you're
we'd lose at most
a few
1 day's
hours.
worth of
Yeah.
work, and at most we would be down for a day. So let's just say that at worst case scenario, we're down a sum total of 2 days.
Okay. Yeah, but I think that you guys are a small enough firm that you're able to have a pretty good tight hold on what's happening.
This process, the way the systems that we have in place is 100% scalable.
Sure, but I don't know. I feel like there's got to be somewhere around it. And I think at a bigger scale, there's a lot more moving parts.
There
I
are,
don't-
but what I'm saying is that for critical processes, for critical controlling functions, you can design security processes that are in line with the importance of what they're protecting. So, like in our office, we have everybody has a local computer that has local files.
Mhm.
And then we've got the cloud that everyone uses the local computer to log into.
Well, just like any place, most of the
Right.
files you're working with these days now are not saved locally.
So
There's
the
probably
amount of
very little.
security,
There's probably very little on your physical local computers.
right? So the files that are on the local computer are not protected all that well. But there's virtually nothing of use on the local computer. In order to be able to log in to the cloud, you're going to have to go through all the steps I just listed. So
Yeah, I get
we
that.
make it progressively more and more difficult to get to more and more important information.
Sure, but I definitely feel like it's way easier now than it was even 5 years ago. But I imagine 12 years ago, it would be. I mean, there was no cloud. The idea of cloud computing 12 years ago was,
Just very small, and it was like on the cusp.
yeah, it was like the internet in the very early 90s. Like people weren't
Yeah.
running their businesses on it. So and 3 decades later, everything's in the cloud. Nothing, very little is being stored locally. And I think that aspect of it is. I mean, my thinking was always like, what if people like bombed the servers? Like that would be.
Well, the thing is that your data is not stored in just one server farm. So let's just say Amazon has servers in New York, Atlanta, Dallas, Seattle, and San Diego. Chances are, if you've got stuff with Amazon Web Services, you've probably got your backup saved in 3 out of those 6 or 7 cities that I just listed. So in order for you to wipe out someone's data hosted in the cloud, if you're with any reputable provider, then they're going to need to be able to target multiple data centers simultaneously.
Are you saying it's backed up in multiple locations? There's multiple backups.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, But how do you think this beef thing is going to play out? You think they're just going to pay like right away, just like the oil guys did after a few days, or do you think
I
we're
don't
going to
know
have a
enough
little
about the
holdout?
situation because, from one, my background's not in cybersecurity. Because it depends on how hard is it going to be for them to rebuild their systems and basically just circumvent the hack and say, all right, you shut this down, but I'm just gonna build a bridge around it, or just like say, you know what, screw it, we lost that server's data, we'll just buy a new server and it'll be all right. Or if the damage is severe enough, they might pay the hackers. The
Well,
problem with paying the hackers is that it incentivizes them to do it in the future.
exactly. I feel like there's there's a good chance we may have a vegetarian summer. It's
No,
gonna be some
there's not.
funky. I mean, but there were places that were dead out of gas
Yeah,
2 weeks ago.
the reason for places being dead out of gas was not because the pipeline shut down. It was
It's
because
because of the
people like
hoarders.
idiots fucking panicked.
But same shit could happen with the beef, and there's already places that are not getting their meat deliveries this week after a big weekend of people buying all the meat to barbecue.
Yeah, you know
So
what?
and
Like,
and it's not like meat hits the grocery store shelves very quickly.
well,
I
yeah,
was
it
I was
doesn't have a long shelf life.
That's my point. So it's not. I was reading about really Toyota modernizing. It's called just-in-time manufacturing, where you don't have a big stockpile of inventory because it gets clunky and it slows things down having the extra
Tons of
inventory.
businesses use that.
Yeah. So with produce and with fresh foods, they move very, very quickly. So they can run out very, very quick, faster than Toyota has to buy nuts and
Well,
bolts.
yeah, anything in the food services industry, like the idea of just-in-time inventory to them is like, yeah, we've been doing that for years. Like we've been doing that for centuries, really.
Yeah, well, but I had this funny thought in my head that the farms are just overrun with cows because they can't stop the
Yeah,
cow process
but
down.
also
But I'm thinking, no,
you
I'm
can
I'm
compare
telling you, I
like
think
a
this.
beef shortage versus a gas shortage. How long can you go without eating beef? The answer is infinite. How long can you go in your life without using gasoline? The answer there is
It's definitely
not infinite. No, I mean some people can, but like society will grind to a halt much faster if you can't get gasoline and diesel fuel than if one of the many aspects of our nutritional base disappears.
Yeah, I was listening today about how our almost the entire U.S. electrical grid is built on. People think electricity is clean, but it's all built on fossil fuel consumption.
Coal and natural gas primarily.
Yeah, but coal, natural gas, there's some gasoline, but the coal is interesting because it's not like they don't use coal the way that we use coal. You grill coal and you have a piece of charcoal and it stays hot and produces heat. They basically grind the coal into a fine dust and it's instantly heated and there's no coal left after that. So they go through coal very quickly and differently than you would imagine that coal would be used in that industry.
It doesn't matter. You're still burning something to get heat to generate steam to drive a turbine.
Yes, to provide electricity, which
Right. The turbine's connected to a generator, which uses rotational energy to turn into electricity.
So, I mean, I didn't think about it, and I was aware of it, but I just never really thought about it until today that our entire electric grid is based on burning fuels.
It's shifting slowly.
Well, it is.
Nuclear's taking up a little bit more. Wind turbines, hydroelectric, where in areas where it's feasible.
Yeah, no, and that's very true, but it's shifting very slowly, and interrupting those supply lines could really fuck with the United States. It could fuck with a lot of the world. I was realizing how fuckable a lot of the systems that we have in place are, and the idea of not having barbecues with meat this summer actually seems like I mean, I'm not worried about it. If I just
It's not going to happen though. First of all, it's only like 20% of our supply.
It's a very large percent of the supply.
No, 20%. There's still like 80% of the people out there still making it.
But look what happened with gasoline.
Right. That's because people are stupid. And if
But
nobody had
it's the same
panic
group
bought,
of people. The gas users are the same people as the hot dog eaters. They're the
well,
same
that's
people.
true.
They're the same people. They're the same people also who use toilet paper when they shit out said meat.
But yeah, and it's probably also the same people that are hoarding ammunition.
There's likely a pretty severe overlap on.
But the
Okay.
point is, if people hadn't panic bought gasoline and like filled up plastic bags with gasoline because they thought there was going to be a shortage, then there wouldn't have been a shortage and everybody wouldn't be able to just go to the pumps and fill up their car. As long as you just use things normally. It was the same thing with toilet paper. And if you just bought what you needed for whatever period you normally bought for, there never would have been a shortage.
Well,
So
much agreed, except for meat's not gonna. Well, I don't know. I'm curious to see how this meat thing plays out.
it's kind of a chicken or the egg question, but I would say that meat is less of a necessity than toilet paper.
Yeah, I would say so. But a lot of people like that weird bidet feature, which
You know what? I have to
I'm
think
not
that
really
this is
down
really
with.
just a plot by Big Tofu.
Well, that was my thinking. It's like, could PETA be behind this? I really don't think PETA
No.
would have any interest. I think PETA cares less about saving the animals than supporting a sustainable operation. That it's the kind of the argument against like people that are producing cancer treatment rather than cancer solutions. I don't know if any of that's legit, but you know what I'm talking about, right? And they say they don't want to eliminate cancer because then they would lose that entire industry. What they want to do is they want to be able to treat cancer. So
Yeah.
so PETA doesn't want to make everybody vegetarians because then they just go out of business.
If you can't be part of the solution, there's money to be had prolonging the problem.
That's well put. Thank you for that. Oh boy. Oh shit. I stopped taking notes here, but I have a note that Biden just had like a quick comment on Biden had a comment on the meat situation, and I was wondering what Trump's answer would have been to what happened with the meat situation.
Something far more entertaining and far less informative.
Yeah, no, I think he would have been very aggressive towards whoever it was, and he would have really irritated them and made them feel very good about themselves.
And somehow also taking credit for like the eventual solution of it. But I think we're getting the sign from Rosh.
Yeah, we are. So on that note, we are coming to an end. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you for listening to our conversation about ghosting and our conversation about the beef.
Ghost meat.
Yeah, exactly. The beef is evaporating. But we're out of here. So thank you guys for joining. Thank you guys for critiquing and being dicks on the TikTok stream. That was very sweet of you.
Yeah. We're now up to 107 hours that we won't get back again. It's more than that, actually.
Yeah.
The election night podcast was like 5.
Yeah, I know. But I'm happy we got to talk about the meat. I'm curious. We'll have to see where the meat stands next episode, because I wonder how the meat industry deals with it differently than the gasoline industry. And at this point, nobody is running the meat off the shelves. So we will see what happens over the next week. All right, we are out of here.
Until next time.
Adios. All right, what are your predictions? Are you thinking a meatless summer, or you think we're going to get through some of these hacks? Because I think they're just started. Got nothing to do with it. Just saying. I think they just started. I think it's only going to get worse. Thanks for coming. See you next time.
I like PBR. I just got priced out of it.